Welcome to the Simple Brand Podcast, the show dedicated to helping you create simple experiences for your customers and for your team members. Each week, we're bringing you amazing interviews with business leaders and authors who will teach you how to differentiate your business with the one thing your customers need the most: simplicity. Your customers live in a complex world. Let's make it simple. Now, here's your host, Matt Lyles.
Every so often I get asked, what's one of the biggest mistakes that business leaders make? And I say it's a mistake on where they place their focus. It's placing too much focus on the short term, or too much focus on the current new task at hand. It could be a new product launch, a new ad campaign, a new innovation. They're focusing on getting this one big new thing out the door. And while they focus on this one big new thing, they don't focus on how that new thing fits alongside everything else they're offering their customers. If you've heard me talk about what goes into defining a brand, then you know that it's the sum total of all experiences someone has with your brand. And that's what you need to keep in mind as a leader. You have to be able to take the view that sees how the sum total of everything you deliver to your customers fits together. If you only focus on providing an outstanding experience at key points of your customer's journey without focusing on the other points, then it's possible that the sum total of all you deliver is simply meh. And that's what I discuss with this week's guest, Andrew Davis. And if you know Andrew, then you already know that this is a fun interview. We had a lot of laughs, and we learned a lot of lessons. But if you don't already know Andrew Davis, here's some things you should know. He's worked for NBC, MTV, and The Muppets. Yeah, those Muppets. He's been featured in The Today Show and in the New York Times. He's a best-selling author of the book Brandscaping, and he's the second most influential content marketer in the world. Well, that's okay. Number 2 is still pretty good, right? And he's a kindred Beastie Boys fan. So, here it is. Here's my interview with Andrew Davis. Hey, Drew, how are you?
I'm good, Matt. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, thanks for being here. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. This is great.
Even though we're, still just doing virtual meetings for right now.
I know. I'm constrained to the desk. I'm constrained to my family. I'm constrained to my office. I'm just constrained. I'm feeling it. Trust me. I was actually in like a little funk yesterday afternoon where I was like, I don't know what to do with my life, but I'm back today.
There you go. Well, I'm glad that we're talking today then versus yesterday.
For sure.
And surprisingly, for those of you who are only listening here, you can't see him, but Drew's not wearing his standard bow tie today.
No, I'm not. I figured since it's a podcast, you could just imagine me wearing my bow tie.
For everybody listening at home, it looks real nice.
Yeah, it's a very nicely tied imaginary bow tie. It's orange and blue. You guys would love it. Too bad you can't see it.
You can only imagine it. Before we get started, I do have one question for you because I'm a huge Muppets fan.
Oh, nice.
And before you were building your marketing agency, I know you've had some dream job roles, but most notably, you got to work with the Muppets.
Yeah.
I love looking back over my career and seeing how I've been blessed with different lessons from each role, and I get to apply those lessons, into what I'm doing now. So I'm curious to know, what lessons did you learn from the Muppets that you incorporate today?
The biggest lesson I learned from the Jim Henson Company is actually a marketing lesson. Like when I started, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, Matt, but do you remember Bear in the Big Blue House?
I do.
Okay. Bear in the Big Blue House. If you don't remember it, it was a kid's show with a big, beautiful walk-around bear puppet, and some other little puppets, and he lives in a blue house. That's why it's called Bear in a Big Blue House. But that was the very first show that I was working on when I got to the Jim Henson Company, and I was basically in charge of the workshop, which is where they make all the puppets. So they said, hey, look, you got to manage the budget and the schedule for the Bear in the Big Blue House puppets. let us know how it's going. We'll have a meeting in 2 weeks to just review the budget. I was like, okay, great. I got this job. And we start looking at the budget. And the first budget report I ran showed that we were $500,000 over budget, and we had not shot one episode yet. And I reran the numbers, and I was like, man, we are in trouble. Like, I don't know how I'm going to fix this. So I go to this big meeting with, executives from Sony, who we partnered with at the time, and Disney, who we were partnered with, and the Jim Henson Company. The head of the Jim Henson Company is there. And they go around the table, and everybody else seems to be on schedule and on budget. And then they get to me, and I say, well, we got a problem here, guys. And I say, we're $500,000 over budget. We haven't shot an episode yet, so I'm dubious that we'll be able to get back on budget. And they just dismissed it. They were like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, thanks for letting us know. Welcome, new guy. Have a great day. And I went back thinking, why do they not care about this? And 2 weeks later, when you're hired somewhere, Matt, and they like one of the first things they do is they set you up with like these orientation appointments where you go meet with other people in the company and learn what they do and say hi. Well, I was on this, kind of round robin where you meet the different departments. So I had this meeting scheduled with the people that were in licensing, and I didn't know anything about licensing. I just went over to the meeting. I waited in front of the office for 15 minutes. I get into the meeting. It's these two women. And very quickly, I'm starting to realize that these two women are the geniuses behind the operation. And I say, hey, look, I got this dilemma. We're $500,000 over budget on Bear in the Big Blue House. What should I do? And she said, oh, don't worry about it. Like, if you get into the, 10 or $20 million range, like, give us a call. And I was like, wait, what? And she said, hey, look, have you ever heard of the Wibbleless World of Dr. Seuss? And I was like, no, I don't know what that was. Matt, do you know that show?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the Wibbleless World of Dr. Seuss lasted only one season. And the Jim Henson Company put it together. And it only lasted one season because the person that was in charge of the workshop ahead of me, and the person that was in charge of the production budget ahead of me, and the person that was in charge of the writers, all they did was keep everybody on budget. They didn't worry about the quality of the show. And it turns out the show was actually really terrible. Some kids loved it, Matt, so I'm not passing judgment. Most people couldn't stand the show. And it was because all they had done was focused on staying on budget instead of creating great content. And when I was in this meeting with this licensing department, they essentially said to me, hey, look, you don't buy a Grover plush doll because you just like Grover. You fall in love with the characters we create. And if I tell you can't spend money on creating the best Grover doll ever, we will never create content good enough that people fall in love enough with our brand that they will then buy stuff. And if that's the case, the Jim Henson Company will never exist, because we are in the business of creating content that people fall in love with, and that inspires people to buy stuff they never know they needed. And if you go to Amazon today, you can go to Amazon and search for Sesame Street branded products, and you'll find 135,000 products that the Jim Henson Company has licensed. And it's only because you fell in love with that content that you are inspired to buy the stuff. And it was not until probably 5 years later, when I was now in the marketing world, where I realized the value of the lesson I had learned at the Jim Henson Company. If you create great content, you can inspire people to buy stuff they never knew they needed, and they will pay a pretty price.
That was not the lessons I was looking for. Like that's super surprising. I love that.
What kind of lesson was I supposed to tell you?
No, I was thinking more like, well, you only see him from the waist up.
Oh, well, that's true.
No, but if you're listening at home, you're listening in your car, wherever, the moment that you have a chance to do this, share this episode with your finance department.
Yeah, exactly. If your finance department could understand the power of content, and you could actually measure the impact of the content you're created in terms that are actually designed to be talked to at a financial level, you'll be unbelievably successful as a marketer, as a branding person, as a business person.
Everything that I can look back to that was some of the biggest work that I got to do, a lot of it came with us asking for and receiving the right amount of money to get it done.
Always, right? I think too many of us are good at coming up with great ideas, but not great at understanding the value the idea should have on the business we run. If you can connect those dots, the budget purse strings will open.
That's what it's about. One of the things that you've been working on a lot lately, and I've been following, is the loyalty loop. Tell me, what is the loyalty loop, and what are you doing around that?
Yeah, sure. The loyalty loop. The loyalty loop is actually just a series of encounters designed to create an impression. It's my answer to people's expectation that we should create a great experience for our customers and clients and prospects, but the realization that no one knows how to do it. And so it's not the problem I went out to solve, to be honest. One of the things that's bothered me for a long time is the funnel. And I really was like, why do people use the funnel? Why does it work? Does it work? Who invented the funnel? These are the questions I had. So I spent all this time trying to figure out what the deal with the funnel was. And it turns out that, the funnel is an interesting, tool, but what really is lacking is our ability to create a great experience for people after they've made a commitment to a brand. And the loyalty loop is just 6 drivers, essentially, that can transform any experience for any company with any customer, prospect, or clients that can have the biggest impact. So think of it this way, Matt. If you take, if somebody fills out a form on your website, that is what I call a moment of commitment. It's an instant in time when somebody trades money, data, or time for some information or to buy a product or a service, right? Yeah. Or maybe even to support a cause. It could work for a nonprofit too. Well, after you fill out that information, let's say it's for an appointment to have a chat, right? Like schedule a call with somebody. The experience after that is lacking with most people. And you can attach an emoji in the client's mind of what they would attach to each of those interactions. Like I tried to go for a test drive for a Volvo. I was trying to buy a car, and I went on a test drive with a Volvo dealership, and I had filled out the form to make the appointment, and the email I got confirming the appointment was awful. Like it included things like, if you'd like to cancel this appointment or reschedule, please call or text, insert salesperson phone here. Like it literally said that. And
I don't find that one in my phone contacts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's no number. It's just so sad, right? So if I'm going to attach an emoji to that, it actually makes me angry. And it's very easy to differentiate your product or service by showing people how you're different instead of telling them you're different. Create a great experience after every moment of commitment, and you can create this loop, this spiral experience that gets people to pay more for the services and products you sell than ever before. So I could talk about it for hours, Matt, but I hope I explained it okay. Like I'm drawing it in the air, by the way.
I can see it.
Yeah, good. Okay, good.
For you listening, it looks real nice.
It's real nice. It's air drawing. Yeah. It's like air guitar, except better.
That's one of the things that I try to teach people is that your brand is not about your logo or your tagline or your colors or any of that stuff. Your brand is the sum total of all experiences that you provide a customer. Yeah. And if you get maybe a great experience signing up, but then everything after that is an angry emoji experience, well, then the sum total experiences, that's not good.
Yeah, you're dead on. Like honestly, the average company, most companies, I would say, most experiences are just meh emojis. So like okay, right? Some make you angry, like the Volvo dealership, and some make you unbelievably happy. But those are the minority. Most experiences are the exact experiences that your competitor provides, which means you're not showing me you're different. Your website may say we're the most trusted, best, most unbelievable in the world, but if your experience is exactly like the worst in the business, how does that make me feel? Like I was trying to buy a new garage door recently. And I got 3 garage door quotes, and the experience from all 3 of them was exactly the same, and it was mediocre at best, right? Oh. If you want to differentiate yourself, it's so easy. The table stakes are so low right now that you can make an impact. Like, I'll give you a simple example. If you make an appointment with anyone, any prospect, any client, what do you do between the time you make the appointment and the time of the actual appointment to increase their anticipation for that meeting? That's it. Just answer that question, because most people do nothing. All they do is send you a confirmation email and Google Calendar, say, I'll talk to you on 11:30 at whatever day, and they expect you to show up with enthusiasm to have that meeting. You're just another meeting on the books, and it doesn't matter what you're selling. They're not excited about that. But the people who deliver a phenomenal experience raise anticipation for each step in their journey, and that makes people more and more excited about the product or service you're selling.
it's also signals to the customer, hey, I'm still paying attention to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Another one is scaling camaraderie, like building mutual trust and respect. Everybody talks about personalizing things, like your email has to say, "Hey, Matt," at the top. Like that, okay, that's basics, right? Like everybody does that. But not many brands do a really good job of introducing the people behind the scenes that are working for you or on your account or to get that meeting ready so that you can build trust faster when you're having time with clients and customers. And it's such an easy thing to do. Like I call it reverse personalization. It's like just build some trust with the people behind the brand and you can actually create a really deep relationship that makes people feel good, that they put a happy emoji and they're like, oh, I'm being introduced to the, even the receptionist at my dentist office. Like I had no idea what her name was, but she's now texting me a nice text message, but with an introduction instead of like Dr. White's, text message service. Like that doesn't give me warm and fuzzy feeling.
Meh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you seen anybody that is doing reverse personalization well?
Oh yeah, Domino's Pizza is the best example of it, actually. Yeah, so if you order a pizza, like I just read recently, and I can't remember where the stat comes from. I can find it for you if you need it, Matt. But it's like 90% of consumers would pay up to 25% more for a personalized experience. Well, no one knows what a personalized experience is, but this same company did some research into how consumers define a personalized experience, which is actually really valuable insight. Yeah. And consumers just want to feel in control, right? So what Domino's is really good at, like if you've ever tried the pizza tracker, you know what I'm talking about. If you're listening and you haven't tried it, your homework, when you get wherever you're going, or tonight when you can't figure out what to do for pizza, go online and order the Domino's pizza and use the order tracker, because immediately what it'll tell you when you click on it is like at 11:32 a.m., Sarah began making your pizza. Yep. Well, that's not personalizing it with your name. It's not, hey, Matt, your pizza's being made. It's Sarah is making your pizza. I never cared who Sarah was before this moment. But all of a sudden, my pizza, my Andrew's pizza is being made by Sarah. And now I'm connected to the brand in a way I never was before. That's all they did was tell me her name. And now I'm like, wow. And then it moves through all the phases and you can watch it online. And then all of a sudden, Sarah hands it off to George, and George is my delivery guy. I never knew the delivery guy's name, but now I have a personal connection with the brand. So Domino's, in the most simple way, creates a great relationship with their client and customer. And no matter what you sell, almost everybody has the opportunity to do this. It doesn't matter if you're 2 people in an office or you're 2,000. If you can essentially bring some personality, some levity to the processes you're bringing your customers and clients through, that will build mutual trust and respect. That will scale your camaraderie, and it will make people happier about the service you provide, even if it's ultimately bad service. That's the truth.
Oh yeah, and then even if there is bad service, then you at least have a human and maybe a face, but you've at least got a name where you might start to empathize with that person. It's 100%. Hard to empathize with a brand. It's hard to empathize with a corporation, but you can empathize with a person.
Absolutely. Like one time I was actually ordering a pizza recently for one of the videos I was working on from Domino's, and they delivered it to the wrong address. And I used to get mad at the brand, and you're right. It's really easy to go, Domino's sucks. They can't even get it right. They got like a tracker and right. But all of a sudden I'm like, man, George delivered it to the wrong address. Like I should call George. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
George had left a message. It's like I have a relationship with George that I never would have had before. And I'm not going to yell at George because I feel like we've got something. We got a little connection there.
That's right. Yeah. When I drive down the street, now I'm starting to see the street in George's eyes.
Exactly.
Oh, you know what? I probably need to turn the lights on in my
Yeah. It's actually, it's funny. We've had this Google Maps problem where like every 6 months, Google Maps seems to like refresh their database and puts our address on a different street. And so, we've had service providers who show up at the wrong house and they're like, where are you? We're like, well, we're not at that house. So it's not even George's fault, and now it's a problem we understand. So we just have to keep resubmitting our address change to Google Maps, and they usually fix it within a few days until it goes back to normal.
So you have to time when you can order pizza.
Yes, exactly. That's
okay,
right.
Let's check Google Maps first. Can we order a pizza today? No.
That's right. Yeah, we've had all sorts of things go to the wrong address. And we're like, it's been delivered, but I don't see it. So we get on our bikes and ride over to the other house.
And Domino's is a great example. I mean, I love talking about the simple and proactive experience they provide. And that is a good B2C experience. But I'm curious about B2B and the loyalty loop. Is the loyalty loop different based on B2C versus B2B?
Well, it's a lot easier for B2B brands.
How so?
Because they have a much more intimate relationship with the customers and clients than a consumer brand for the most part. And they know a lot more about them as the relationship builds. Like the loyalty loop in a consumer's world might only happen once, right? Like if you can imagine in your mind literally a loop, it's just a moment of inspiration that leads to a moment of commitment. That's its most basic form, and it just loops around. So let's say you're on Instagram and you see somebody's made this amazing meal with their Instant Pot, and it's a friend of yours, and you're like, I don't even know what an Instant Pot is. That's a moment of inspiration that sends you on a journey, let's say, to buy an Instant Pot at Target. Okay, that's your moment of commitment. You just purchased the product. Okay, that's one round through the loop. And when you're in the consumer brand, those can happen very fast. Or maybe you're buying a car; it's a slow loop, but it's one loop. In the B2B world, when you're working with a prospect or a client, it doesn't look like one loop. It looks like a spiral. Like picture a slinky. Like if I take a slinky and I unravel it, like hold it up and stretch it out, you're basically building a relationship at the top that starts as a doubter. That consumer, when they come in and let's say their moment of commitment is they want to download a white paper, or they want to set up a call to learn more about you, or they want a price quote online. They're doubting at that moment that you can provide the service they need at the price they want. And the goal of a great loyalty loop in the B2B world is to make that spiral relationship of micro moments build from doubter to trust, right? So you're moving down the spiral with lots of small interactions that make them happier faster. So if they say, hey, can I set up a call? You don't have to set up the call immediately. The big mistake B2B brands make is that they try to rush the relationship. Like I just filled out a thing for a payroll service. We're looking for a new payroll service. And the call to action said set up a time to meet with one of our professionals, right? So I clicked that button and I filled out the form. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but the form was actually a get a quote form. So they used the same form for a different call to action. So all of a sudden I'm getting emails from this company saying like, I'm Tony, I'm your representative. In order to provide a quote, I'll need to schedule a 30-minute call with you in the next 24 hours. Can we do that today? And I'm like, I don't want a quote. I want to chat about some payroll issues I'm having, right? They're immediately losing my trust and they're not building a real relationship. And it got worse. Like I'm in the last 4 days, I've probably gotten 5 voicemails from them, just like hounding me to get on the phone to get a quote. So now I don't trust them. The right brands are slowing the process down. They're saying, let's build a relationship through a few small micro moments, and let's actually build from doubter to trusted consumer through a real experience that's designed to re-inspire you, to answer your trigger questions, to scale camaraderie, to remove friction where others put it in the way of the relationship. So that was a long answer, and hopefully it helped, Matt. But for B2B brands, it's a lot easier because you have a real relationship to build.
I love how you describe that, and to me, that goes back to marketing and relationships is just like dating.
Oh, yeah.
Your payroll company, that sounds like somebody wanting to bring their parents to the first date. Oh,
yeah,
exactly.
First date,
here, meet my mom and dad.
Exactly.
We're not there yet.
Slow down.
Slow it down.
Yeah, and just like a date, you're right. Like I'm running out of the first date going, there is no way. So
now I have to change my phone, and now I'm going to ask Google Maps to actually show my house.
No, like, I mean, we're joking, but I did block the number from this payroll company.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Oh my
like I
goodness.
can't take all the voicemails like hounding me for a call. That's not a relationship. That's like a stalking girlfriend, you know?
That's not fun at all.
Mm-mm.
That's someone who sadly is not doing it the right way.
No.
But who is doing it the right way?
On the B2B side specifically?
Yes.
On the B2B side, I mean, they tend to be smaller companies. And I think they tend to be smaller companies because they highly value the referral. So they know the value of the experience they're going to provide. Like I had a call with an insurance company just recently. They're an independent insurance agent, so they're not affiliated with Nationwide directly or, a big brand that they market behind. They're kind of fully responsible for their own brand and then the services they provide to the clients they can find. And so they're hyper acutely aware of how valuable the referral experience is, which means they need to provide a great experience to the customers they've got so they get the referrals. So, for example, this insurance company realized a few months ago that construction insurance, liability insurance for construction companies, small little construction companies, was a good growth opportunity. They'd secured a few of these. And the owner of this insurance agency said, this looks like a good opportunity for us. Let's try to define what the loyalty loop experience should be. And they started to just say, all right, like these are construction guys. They usually are guys, by the way, and they usually are out on a job site. And usually we're asking most of our clients to meet us at our office or we'll meet at their office. Well, they were having trouble getting people to commit to the meeting. Or a lot of times they were canceling the meeting. So again, let's talk about that loyalty loop experience. They were usually a referral. So they're coming in saying, hey, Matt, said he got great service from you guys. We were interested in talking to you about some construction liability insurance. Can we set up a time to meet? The company's saying, yes, let's set up a time to meet. Would you like to meet at your office or our office? And they're thinking to themselves, well, I'm not at the office ever. I'm on job sites. So they were getting lots of cancellations and they realized all they had to do was change it. So what they do now is when they get a construction company to come in as a lead, they say, hey, we know you're on the job site all the time. So they empathize immediately in language they understand. It can be hard and unpredictable to get away. Why don't I bring you lunch at your job site on Tuesday? What sandwich would you like from this restaurant? Here's a link to the menu, and I'll see you at 12:30. If that works for you, we can chat over lunch. And that experience is a perfect example of a loyalty loop experience. They're raising anticipation for having lunch at a job site, building a personalized, scaling camaraderie experience in the right kind of way.
We a lot of times, like marketers, talk about meeting your customers where they are. Mm-hmm. They're literally meeting their customers
exactly.
where they are.
They literally are meeting their customer where they are. Here's what's amazing about this. When you build a loyalty loop experience that's designed like that to really understand and empathize with the customer and to use your language, meet the customer where they are literally. Now that they've been doing this on the job site, a lot of other contractors and subcontractors that are on the job site see this happen. And they say, hey, Matt, I noticed you were having lunch with a guy who brought you a sandwich. He was in a suit. Who was that guy? And they say, oh, guess what? That's Andrew, my insurance agent. He's awesome. And they go, really? I'd love to meet with them. We have insurance and they don't come to our job site. And they go, no problem.
Bring me a sandwich.
Exactly. That's the loyalty loop at work. It's creating a new moment of inspiration in the mind of other people where they're committing to the next meeting before they've even reached out to that person because they've seen the difference instead of telling me the difference. There are tons of independent insurance agents that will say, we literally meet you where you are, but they don't actually meet you where they are. They just say that, right? This company, they're based in Tennessee, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Near you. That's exactly what they do. And so I think more and more large brands are having to focus on customer and client experience in a way they never have before. But I think they're trapped inside the funnel thinking. Like we got them to commit to something. That was our goal. We got them through the funnel. now handed off to sales, right? I think building a real experience that isn't a handoff or a marketing qualified lead or, any of that stuff, it has to be a seamless experience. And we're seeing more and more brands, hiring chief experience officers to actually build that kind of experience for them.
And to make sure that company recognizes and knows that customer throughout every step in the loop. Whereas
exactly.
if you hand them off, then there has to be a whole new set of introductions. Well, okay, tell me your name again and give me this piece of information. And this piece of information.
Exactly.
But I just gave that to Sarah when she was
Exactly. Like even, a lot of sales process, especially inbound and outbound sales processes for SaaS companies and B2B brands, have been built out of telemarketing or telesupport. So the methods and methodologies are very similar, right? It's like get someone in marketing to schedule a call. That's all their job needs to be. They can be a low-ranking, churn and burn kind of person, but just get them to schedule the call. Then we'll throw our big bucks, high money, awesome salesperson, Deborah, who's going to make the calls and close the deal, right? And that transition is obvious to the consumer. And it's like a signal, like, oh, this happened to me also recently. I was looking at some software, and they did that. They qualified the lead, and they were like, this guy's perfect. And, I can't remember her name, but Pam or whatever sent me an email saying, oh, I'm so glad we confirmed a meeting. Your meeting will be with Hamal Patel on, Wednesday. And I'm like, who the hell is Hamal? Like, I thought I was sending a meeting with Pam. This is not the meeting I wanted. And so those kinds of things have to change if you're going to build a real experience that's differentiated in the marketplace.
Lately, you've been talking about content promotion and distribution.
Yeah.
What's the biggest mistake you see today with brands in their content and distribution strategy?
Oh man, they're chasing the high. They're chasing the spike in their analytics, right? Every marketer. Hey, look, I fall victim to it too, Matt. But we all want to get the next big spike. So no matter what we're doing, if the last post we put on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok got 100 views or 10 likes, the next one we want to get 120 views and 20 likes. We're constantly trying to get the next big spike, and so you end up chasing this kind of elusive like treadmill monster where you've got a carrot in front of you and you're just chasing after the next big spike. And that's the biggest problem I think most of us marketers face. Like it's alluring, literally to kind of want to see that next big spike, but it can also be unbelievably detrimental to the long-term success of your business and the real outcome that you're actually hoping for, which isn't another big spike. It's like a long-term relationship with a client that's constantly or prospect that's constantly growing.
The way that you've talked earlier, it sounds like if you're chasing a spike, then you're not even focusing on that loyalty loop. You're not focusing on the whole series of experiences. You're focusing on one experience, or rather one, piece of content at a time.
Yeah. I really think that most marketers are great at creating marketing moments. They're just not good at creating marketing momentum, and marketing moments might provide a spike in interest. Like let's say you create a great video, you post it on YouTube, it does well for your company, and let's say it generates a few leads for your B2B business, or it sells some product if you're a B2C brand, right? And you're psyched about it. The problem with the spike model, like the chasing the marketing moment, is you're forced to then say, oh my gosh, how can we do that again?
Right.
And you end up with you end up with a sequel to the movie, right? Like it's just the movie redone, and you're trying to replicate the success of that one moment you created. The brands that are unbelievably successful in generating more than a marketing moment and build marketing momentum are focused on making sure that the valley for the previous spike is lower than the next valley. They're not worried about the spike so much. So even if the spike is the same, they're trying to get more consumers to make a commitment to the brand to stay for longer, which might mean to subscribe to some content instead of just get the spike. So instead of worrying about views, maybe you should worry about subscribers. And you're trying to get more subscribers with the next video than the last video, instead of trying to get the 1 million views you wish you got. So I think that's the big difference between successful brands and those that aren't. It's just the difference between shifting your perspective. Instead of worrying about the spikes, look at the valleys.
To hear you talk about that, and we're saying that the valleys have to be higher with each iteration. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Did I say lower before? Did I say it backwards? I might have. But picture a series of hammocks where each hammock is higher than the hammock before.
Oh,
That's the goal. So
right.
even if the spike is the same, you're trying to grow that hammock. Or if the spike is even just a little bit higher, great. Are you getting more momentum into the next piece of content you're creating? So instead of thinking of just one-off YouTube video or one great email newsletter campaign that's going to sign up a bunch of people, how can you actually use every single piece of content you're creating to get more people to subscribe, to stay for longer, to involve themselves more? How can you get them to keep going along that curve?
If we're drawing another picture here for you listener at home, so this would be something that shows spikes and valleys, but over time it's trending higher.
Yes, exactly. Over time it's trending up and to the right. Exactly.
Yeah. So we're looking at this line, and there's peaks and valleys, and it's going up higher and higher. So for those of you listening at home, this looks real nice.
Yeah, it does look really nice. I like it, Matt. Thanks for drawing it in the air. Yeah, instead of what most people have, just to compare it to the marketing moment model, they have like a very giant spike and then it flatlines again. And then a very giant spike and then a flat line. And then a mediocre spike and a flat line. And then a mediocre spike. That never grows. The people who are, the people who are really successful are strategically thinking about how do I promote and distribute my content so that I'm constantly building in and out of each piece of content I'm creating. I'm not getting all the views or all the watches or all the listens or all the reads on one day because I did a great job promoting that piece of content, or it was just a great piece of content that I'm only doing once. How am I going to get them to get the next piece of content, and who are those people?
So who's doing this marketing momentum the right way? Who's a good example?
Oh, man, the example I always give actually is TripAdvisor because it's easy to understand. And I know right now not a lot of people are traveling as we record this. But anyway, if you don't know TripAdvisor, it's a big travel review site. And essentially every year, TripAdvisor makes one giant piece of content that's essentially their ratings and reviews, ranked. So, for example, they'll do the top 10 beaches in the world, or the top 10 beaches in the Caribbean, or they'll do the top 5 hotels in Europe, or so they've got these lists that they can use. Now, most brands, if you're trying to create a great marketing moment, would just create the report or create one of these, right? And then release it out into the world on one day and say, we've got the most amazing travel stats, like beaches, like hotels. You like read the whole ebook right now. Here it is. They don't do that.
No.
What they do is they very systematically trickle the content out with a clear understanding of which audience they're going to release it to when, so that it builds momentum into hopefully a big spike. So let's just take that like Caribbean beaches list. They might hypothetically email it to their email list. Now that's people who have already committed to the brand. They've said, hey, I want to get your weekly email. And TripAdvisor says, great, this week our featured content is the top 5 beaches or top 10 beaches in the Caribbean. Now they don't immediately then go on Twitter and also tweet it. And they don't go on Facebook and Facebook posts, and they don't Instagram it that minute. And they don't go on YouTube and do a little video summary that second. They wait. They wait and they watch their email newsletter get consumed. Now, that might take a day or 3 days for the peak of consumption to start. So you can see that in your mind, draw that first spike. The first spike of consumption is just the people on their email list, because that's all they've sent it to. Now, they're not stopping people from sharing it. So, yeah, sure, some people have shared it on Twitter and stuff, but they haven't promoted it. So that first phase, I call the loyalty loop phase. It's the people you already know. Send that content to them and see how long it takes them to react before you start sending it to everybody else, right? The second step, is this making sense, Matt? I'm drawing the picture.
It is. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Basically, it's like not throwing it all out all at one time. Right?
Yeah, I always say don't vomit your content everywhere all at once, right? Like it's gross. We don't need that. So So that's what TripAdvisor does. They wait till the email has been most consumed by most of the people, and then they go on social media. But they don't go onto just one social media channel all at once and just blurt it. They say, you know what, let's start with Twitter. And they watch Twitter consumption grow and slow and plateau. They make that little spike, right? And we all know that Twitter's half-life for content is very short. So that might only take a few hours for someone as big as TripAdvisor for their content to be fully consumed by their audience and done. Then they move on to Facebook, and then they move on to Instagram in the same exact way. They've built this little pipeline. So now you can see how they're spreading out the momentum they're building. It might have taken 3 or 4 days for the first channel of email. Now it's taking, let's say, 2 or 3 days for all their social channels. Then they start buying ads. So now they're moving into the next spike. And they're not just buying ads willy-nilly. They're buying ads for lookalike audiences who already liked our content. Those people that liked the email, those people that posted the email, those people that on social media that already shared our post or liked our post, who are people that look like them. Let's buy ads for those people and help introduce our brand and our content to a new group of people. That's a new little spike. And then if it's really successful, Matt, this is the key. Then they do PR outreach at the end. So for example, if it's gained a lot of momentum over the course of, let's say, 2 weeks, maybe that piece of content for the top 10 beaches in the world has gotten 20,000 views. They will call the Today Show and they'll say, hey, Today Show, we've got this amazing piece of content. It's already got 90,000 views, 80,000 views on social media. People are eating it up. It's the top 10 beaches in the world. We were wondering if you wanted to do a feature segment with our editor from TripAdvisor to talk about the top 10 beaches in the world, and we could reveal them on the Today Show in the morning. And they say, wow, that's great. The reason they say that's great is because they see proof that the content is valuable. They see social proof and social momentum, and they're like, we want to get on that bandwagon because we know it's already successful, and we'll elevate that success. So now you've got the PR spike at the end, and now you're ready to start promoting the next piece of content. Oh, guess what? You liked last week's 10 beaches? How about the top 5 hotels in the world? And you're starting the whole new momentum curve from a point of elevation instead of the bottom of a valley.
So starting it with a larger audience than the first piece of content.
Exactly, because you've now got new people who have signed up for your email list because they saw the Caribbean thing, right?
Yeah.
That's your loyalty loop. Again, now you're sending a new list to the same people plus the new people. Now you've got new people on social media. You've got new people to reach out to. Now you've got new ads you can run for the new piece of content. And to be clear, they don't go through every piece of the cycle if it's not working. So like, let's say they send out the loyalty loop email and they say, check out the top 10 zoos in the world. And no one clicks those links. No one opens that email. They don't start promoting that on social media hoping it'll work. They already know the audience that values them the most doesn't even want to know what the top 10 zoos are. So don't buy any ads. Don't call the PR people. Like, let's leave that one alone and just move on to the next one.
And in a sense, like that actually saves some money. Like that makes the finance department happy.
Exactly.
Because they know that they're not wasting money on content and ads and PR that people aren't going to pay attention to.
Exactly. And you know what? It makes everybody on the team happy. I mean, no one wants to be the person in charge of running a Twitter campaign for an article no one's going to click on. And they know it already, right? Like the email team's going to say, guys, this is the worst piece of content we've ever sent. I don't know why we're doing it on Twitter, but Bob, here's the content assets. Good luck. Like Bob doesn't want that.
I've already asked my grandparents to click on the past article. I can't ask them this.
Exactly. You're so right, Matt. It's like all I could get was my mom, my sister, and my brother to click on that thing. Like, good luck, Matt. No one wants that. So if you want to make everybody happy, like focus on, like, use the audience you've got to determine if the content is going to be valuable to anyone else. And maybe there's some outliers, but 99% of the time, you're going to be right. If your loyalty loop doesn't like the content, don't keep promoting it.
That tells you right there, it's not going to work.
Exactly. I mean, I've done the same thing. I've sent out content. I've even emailed it to a few of my friends before I send it out, which is my loyalty loop test. Like I'll say, hey, Matt, I'm thinking about, releasing this video on Tuesday. What do you think? And if the response from all 4 people I send it to is like, Drew, that's a dumb video. I'm never going to watch that video. I wouldn't even send it to any of my friends. I'm like, oh, all right, should I send it out? Should I not send it out? I mean, the answer is really clear. Don't send it out.
Don't send it. One of the biggest light bulbs for me right here is the fact that PR would be one of the last things you do instead of being the first thing you do. So many marketers, 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m., whatever, like on launch day, here's our press releases, send all the press releases out, and then start promoting it. But the marketing momentum says that's the opposite thing. You should do that last.
Yeah, look, a lot has changed since the PR business was started, back in the World War II kind of days. PR has changed a lot. And I think the biggest change in the PR world is that from a media outlet standpoint, they're looking to find stories that have some social proof. They don't want to experiment with stories. And a lot of journalists today are actually rewarded and encouraged, and sometimes monetarily rewarded, by the way, for actually being able to garner an audience. It's not like they just get the right to write whatever article they want. They have to write an article that more people are going to see than the last article. They're in the exact same predicament as a marketer. So from their vantage point, if you can come to them and say, hey, this has a lot of social proof, it's got a ton of momentum, our audience is your audience, guess what? I think your audience is going to love this. Even if you're in a B2B space, manufacturing, rivets, there's a magazine, I guarantee, where the editor would love to hear that everybody you've sent this article to or insight to or information to has loved it. Hey, and you can jump on that bandwagon and even elevate it more. They want to hear that. So we've got to identify that the world has changed a lot, and it doesn't mean you can't still have a successful launch of a product. It just means the way you do it has changed.
And you've got to be able to keep up with that and understand how things are working today.
For sure.
As marketers are approaching the marketing momentum curve, what are the right questions they need to be asking to make sure they're doing it the right way?
I think the real question you have to ask is what you should stop doing.
Yeah.
Which is a hard question for marketers. A lot of us we've just got a lot of inertia on a bunch of initiatives that we keep doing. For example, if your email newsletter doesn't work anymore, you either need to change the email newsletter or stop doing the email newsletter. If you've been using Twitter for 5 years for your brand and it's not helping you sell or support your brand at all, you're just doing it because everybody says you need to be there, maybe you need to stop doing that, because your marketing momentum curve won't work if you're just so far dispersed and you've got so many distribution and promotion channels that you can't kill it on one channel at a time. So my advice is always pare it down. Try to get really clear about exactly where you need to be and why, and focus on being better than anybody else on the channels you're going to execute on, which means stopping a lot of the stuff. Like, Matt, I had to make a tough choice a few years ago. I said to myself, I don't really want to use Facebook for professional use. And so I posted on all my Facebook pages and my Facebook profiles, like, hey, I'm not really posting here actively. If you want to find me on Instagram. And I've had plenty of people who are actually grateful. They'll like message me on Instagram and say, hey, I've tried to find you on Facebook, found that you're not there anymore. It's so nice to see that you're on Instagram and that you told me you're never going to post on Facebook. I was like, yeah, no problem. I can't tell you how liberating it is to stop doing stuff that isn't working.
It is so liberating, and I argue that it helps you be more effective. You say pare it down. I teach prune it back.
Perfect. That's much better use of words. Yeah. You're right. Prune it back. Prune it back. I agree. I love that.
Wow.
Start cutting today.
And when you prune it back, that's going to help you grow even further in those few channels, those few areas where you are going to operate.
Love it.
Drew, we have learned so much from you today, but I know there's more lessons to be learned here. Where can people go to learn more from you?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Drew Davis here. My website is akadrewdavis.com, or search for me on YouTube. Those are the 3 places you can find me the most.
There you go. So only just a few places. So
exactly. I tried to kill all the rest of my activity. Don't look for me on TikTok.
So I'm following the wrong Drew.
You might be following me, but there's nothing there.
Last Last question. If you were to create a 5-song soundtrack for your work for Loyalty Loop or Marketing Momentum, what songs would you include?
Oh, man, here we go. You ready? Number 1,
Yeah.
Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys. Yes, it's like I love that song, but I also love it's like an adventure. My list is eclectic, by the way, Matt. So I can't imagine anyone actually listening to this playlist except for me. So
I'll listen to it.
Okay, good. Okay, I like that.
There we go. 2 listeners.
There we go. I'll definitely thumbs up it. The second one is the pirate theme from Pirates of the Caribbean. I think it's called "Here's a Pirate," technically, actually. And that, if you haven't listened to it, it just fires me up. It's like I want to go on an adventure immediately. I just want to pin the sails back and just let the wind take me where it goes. It's such a great theme song.
Set a point toward the horizon and go there.
Exactly. Unexplored territory, and I just want to go. The third one is an oldie for me, but it's one that, I don't know, drums up a bunch of childhood, but also gets me fired up. It's Depeche Mode's "Just Can't Get Enough." Do you know that song?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's on my list. Are you ready for the last 2? Here we go. "Lose Yourself" by Eminem. One of my favorite songs. And the last one is one that I've recently fallen in love with, and I don't know how long it's going to be on my list, but it's on the list today, so we're going to keep it. It's "Dance Monkey" by Tones and I.
I will say I'm actually not even familiar with that song.
Oh no, you're either going to love it or hate it, but next thing you know, you're going to be dancing along, I bet.
Well, I'm sure I will now.
Dance so good.
Monkey. Wow. Okay, yeah, that is an eclectic list.
Oh, so eclectic, right?
Well, Drew, thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you, Matt.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Andrew Davis. And there's so much to learn from him and his focus on both the Loyalty Loop and Marketing Momentum. And you can get all of that by visiting and following him at akadrewdavis.com. And if you're an event planner who hasn't already booked Andrew before for an event, you must book him for your next event. If you thought he was fun and engaging just during this episode, then imagine how he'll be with your audience. And he's one of those speakers who's currently at the forefront of creating high-quality, engaging virtual keynotes here in 2020. Hey, I hope you're enjoying listening to the Simple Brand podcast. I loved having you with us today. I'd love it if you hit the subscribe button. And when you do, that's going to be a lot simpler for you to get future episodes. We've got some great episodes coming up, lots of more great interviews, lots of fun guests, more lessons from me, Matt Lyles. So hit the subscribe button, and then you can automatically make sure that you get those new episodes as soon as they're live. Until then, keep it simple.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Simple Brand Podcast. Want to make your listening experience simple and automatically receive each new episode? Visit our website, simplebrandpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. If you're finding value from the Simple Brand Podcast, leave us a rating or review. That helps us get the show to the ears of the people who need it most. Be sure to catch Matt right here next week. Same Matt time, same Matt channel. Until then, keep it simple.